Hello, it's Jen Joseph again from Envisage Executive Coaching. And today I want to talk to you about isolation and terror. Yeah, so this is an uncomfortable subject, but a lot of people do live in circumstances that are quite terrifying. But when we add isolation to it, it can really bring out the worst in us. And terror is never something that we really spend time thinking about us. What terrifies us and why it terrifies us. I mean, there may be evidence, physical evidence around you that you live with somebody where you're constantly walking on eggshells, and that is your assumption of terror. But is it the person themselves that's creating the terror, or is there something that's going on in you that is performing the act of terror before the actual event takes place? Right. Now, here's the thing. I recently read an article. A young man during the lockdown killed his wife and two children because of the terror of being in lockdown and not being able to provide for his family. Now, you can see that is really extreme. But nevertheless, the fear of not being able to provide for his family was probably something that had been running as a recurrent story in his mind. And now that the circumstances had changed beyond his control, it played out. So we really do need to spend time to sit down and look at our uncomfortable feelings, especially when we're in family dynamics which are fractured. It's very important, because the things that we can control, we ought to make an attempt to control them and not just wait for other people to do certain things. Now, here's something that I do know, and I'm talking about from my past also. When you're living with somebody who has a quick temper and a quick hand on top of it, it's worthwhile spending time looking at yourself and what you feel and think before you encounter that person. Because here's the reason. The moment that you have got your own thoughts under control, there is nothing left for that person to have any friction with. They get frustrated with you, yes, because you're non-responsive. But you're non-responsive because they cannot trigger a response in you that encourages them towards acting and abusing you. So once you've understood your own response, I had to go through this myself. Once you understood your own response, the friction element disappears. Now, people who like to hit other people are generally weak anyway, and they need to perceive another person as being weaker than themselves, which they abhor, by the way. They really abhor weakness in others. And that then frustrates them enough to start lashing out or speaking out or depriving something. But what I do know is that such individuals they can't fight you once you've dealt with your own demons. Each one of us is a monster inside. Every single one of us is a monster inside. But we run away from that. And so it's easy to then be in situations with other people who are also monsters and see them playing it out against us, rather than take responsibility for what's going on in us. It happens because most of us are trapped in our past. And here's the thing that we're very rarely taught in life, that unless we learn the lesson of an event from the past, it will recur over and over and over. And each time the event comes back for us to learn the lesson, it gets worse and worse until we go, oh, I get it now. And then at the point that we've learnt the lesson, the cycle is broken. So if you're living in a situation of terror whilst we're in isolation, then it's a good time to start doing some work on yourself. Okay, so what can you do? Okay, I've got 3 steps here. Start to take responsibility for your thoughts. Yeah, your thoughts, the way you are thinking. Look at the thoughts that you're thinking. Write them down if you can. Actually, yeah, write them down because you're going to burn this later. Write them down and then look at the emotion that you've attached to that thought and write that down. And then look at the perspective. Which way are you looking at this thing? Are you thinking, oh, poor me, poor me, poor me, poor me? Oh, I can't do anything about this, not my fault. Or are you thinking, I know I triggered that, but why? Are you pessimistic? Are you optimistic? Are you being bold-faced? Do you get fun out of doing this? Look, really seriously look at yourself. After you've recorded all of that, burn the sheet of paper. You know, there's actually shown to be a positive effect from actually burning something. It's called casting your cares. So once you've recorded it, the power has gone into the written document, and then you've burnt it. It brings it to an end. But you've got to also make that mental change. Just the act of burning it alone doesn't complete the cycle. You have got to make that mental change. Now, when you've understood the decisions that you've been making and why you've been making them, then you can determine for yourself whether or not this is sufficient. You've now learnt the lesson. Enough is enough. Have you learnt that lesson? The moment you decide that you have learnt the lesson and you can inform yourself of what the lesson is you've learnt, the scenario comes to an end. Absolutely and totally 100% comes to an end. I can tell you that the number of times that has happened to me, because I took a long time to learn, was embarrassing. But what happened was, after I've learnt this lesson, those individuals exited from my life. Even though they were close to me, they exited from my life. Lesson learnt, new page, start a new chapter. We have an amazing opportunity right now to start new chapters in our lives. So take this time, learn from your past, review your past, particularly the last 18 months. If there's still an emotional signature attached to any event of the last 18 months, sit down, do the exercise, and find out, what did I need to learn from this experience? Okay, this is Jen Joseph, releasing your confidence. Bye for now.